Hi, welcome to True Creeps, where the stories are true and the creeps are real. We'll cover stories from grotesque gore to the possibly plausible paranormal, to horrifying history, to tense and terrible true crime, and everything else that goes bump in the night. We're your hosts, Amanda.
And I'm Lindsay, and we want you to join us while we creep.
We cover mature topics. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are finally back from holiday season. I hope everyone had a great holiday season.
It feels like it's been 87,000 years since we've last recorded.
It really does. We've already talked for 2 hours before this because we're
as we do.
It's been too long.
Yeah, it has. It has.
We're also recording while wearing the same shirt without coordinating first.
Twinsies.
Which I love.
Well, Amanda put it in our Discord. She was like, Lindsay didn't even notice. And I was like, no, I noticed immediately because it's one of my designs. But I didn't want to be like, I see that you're wearing my shirt that I'm also wearing. It got weird. I just got really weird about it. So I didn't say anything, which made it stranger. You know.
So I called it out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Love it.
I love it.
Yeah. Twinsies.
Great shirt. She's a good designer.
Thanks.
Yo, if you need some design shirts.
Thanks. Designed shirts. What a strange way of wording that.
I was going to say designer shirts and then I stopped.
I mean, you're not wrong, but I wouldn't call myself a designer. That feels strange.
No, it's a designer. It's a designer shirt.
Perfect.
For sure.
Perfect.
But yeah, so this holiday season seems like it was the longest one, yet the shortest one at the same time.
Just went by so quickly.
Right. And if you want to hear about our time off, we threw that at the end for you.
Yeah, you know us. We're gonna chitter chatter, especially it's been a minute. Okay, so we're gonna get back to show proper. So it is 2025. We've got some exciting True Creeps news, if you will. So first off, we're gonna have quarterly events for our Patreons, which we're hyped about.
Oh yeah.
Our first one is at the end of February. So as long as you've joined by then, you can be a part of that. And typically what we do is we hang out or we'll play games. For this one, we're going to be talking specifically about our next spooky trip. So I'm excited about that, but we'll probably also, end up just chatting and hanging and doing all the fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we've told our Patreons where our next spooky trip is, but we're not going to share it publicly yet. But you'll know when you know, unless you're a Patreon.
Yeah. And episodes will be coming out with teasers like last time.
Yeah. So if you were a True Creeps conspiracy theorist, maybe start thinking about that. And then one more just a little update for this year is that we're going to have a new release schedule. We're going to be releasing 3 episodes per month. And our thinking is that we want to make sure that we have the time to, 1, exist as humans outside of this, 2, dedicate the 25 hours that each episode takes without feeling like, oh gosh, we have to rush. And then the third part is that Amanda and I, last year we started it, but we did spooky travel. And that's something that we want to be able to do and to be able to share on the show. And in order to be able to do that, that's a whole other type of time commitment. So we want to make sure that we have the time to do that.
Yeah. And there's several episode ideas that we've had in our back pocket for a while, but it's just not something that could be researched in a week.
Yes.
It's going to take double, triple the amount of time to read through, a bunch of court documents that are forever long. And we just want to do it properly and tell people's stories with the time that they deserve. So we want to make sure that we can do that too.
Yeah.
On top of spending more time with our Patreon, we're going to do more events. And yeah, we want to check out some of these spooky places and give you the deets and the hot goss while we're there.
If you know anything about us, you know that we love to share the deets and the hot goss. And there's one particular case that I really wanted to cover last year, but I knew that it was going to require reading several books. And then I'm going to be as vague as possible, genealogy research. And that outside of our skill set. So we have to partner with another person to do that. And that's a whole other arm. And I love that we can explore that and do that. And so just a new little True Creeps era, but also it's not on our official list. The other thing that we want to have this year is other people on here with us. So you might hear from some more guests this year. And last year we had people who were recording and sending things in, whether it was our Patreon episode or a Velisca episode. We had Nora for a little bit, but being able to have either a person who knows a great bit about a topic or someone who has a fun thing to share, we're excited about that too.
Yeah. And we've had a few people reach out over the last couple of years and we've had to be like, so sorry, we can't do it. But we're hoping to be able to do that this year with some really fun people too.
Yeah. I'm excited about that.
I'm excited for this year. I think we're going to have great topics. Hopefully some awesome people join us. And then so many fun Patreon nights too. I actually love Patreon nights. They're a lot of fun. Yeah. The games we've played. I think we have some still saved, like some screenshots of our last one because we were all dying laughing.
Yeah, well, Amanda mentioned it. It's in our end of show stuff when we were talking about what we did over the break. But she did like a paint night with a band. We could absolutely do some type of like craft activity where we like send out kits and then we make something together. So like, wouldn't that be fun?
And if you have ideas, patrons, feel free to put them in our Discord.
Always. We want all the ideas. Okay, so we're 15 minutes into recording. Should we mention what we're going to talk about today?
Well, some of that's going to go to the end, so maybe a little bit shorter,
Yeah, okay. Today we're going to talk about time slips. And we thought it would be a fun concept to explore in the new year because we've been seeing so many stories about it and because we're slipping into a new time. Did you like that?
I loved it. That wasn't even in the outline.
It wasn't. You can tell if I've really, really like just thought of it in the moment because I go, do you like that? In the creepiest way right after. You're welcome.
Perfect. Love it.
Genuine.
So what is a time slip? Let's start with that. It is described as a phenomenon in which a person experiences a sudden shift in time and space. And it can manifest as a feeling of being transported to a different time or even location.
Would you say that it feels like time keeps on slipping into the past or future? Is that what you would say it is? Or
yeah, absolutely. She's so pleased with herself.
I have. She started talking, and in my head, the song was going.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't sing again because that person got really mad. So I just figured I'll just start saying lyrics, but not so many that we can get in trouble, but just enough. Anywho.
Just enough.
Mm-hmm.
So a time slip is also known as a temporal displacement or a time warp. So that's, I think, a more commonly used term that people have heard of, right? We've all seen those movies.
And by those movies, do you mean Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Yeah, that one, but also...
No, I mean, there's
like,
other ones.
The time movies.
I mean, look, man, you say time warp. I'm thinking of the time warp, if you will.
Yeah, that's a well-known term, okay? People know that.
Yeah. That one we've got.
So to sum it up, it's an experience someone will have where they find themselves briefly transported into a different time period. And the interesting thing is it could be either the past or sometimes even the future. Terrifying. And the time frame in which they are in this different time can vary widely. Typically, the person doesn't notice it immediately until they start seeing things that just seem unfamiliar to them. So like clothes, architecture, cars, things like that.
And when I think of a group of people finding themselves suddenly in a different place, I am immediately thinking of the 90s TV show, Land of the Lost. Just gonna go ahead and unlock a memory for you.
Yeah, it really did.
Where the family goes into a portal in their Jeep and then they're in like prehistoric time with dinos and shit. I was like, oh, that is this. And then I was like looking it up, which I didn't know this. Did you know that 90s TV show was based on a 70s TV show?
No.
Of the same title? Yeah. They were like, we can do this better.
Interesting. I forgot that existed.
I did too, until this.
Yeah. Now it's just the theme songs in my head, and it will always be in my head now. Thanks.
That's been deleted for me.
So time slips aren't necessarily a new thing, as they've been reported throughout history in many different cultures, which I thought was interesting. I never really considered that, right? Like, now that we have TikTok and Facebook and all of that in front of us and people can share their stories a lot easier, I'm like, oh, I've never heard of this before, but it's been everywhere in history too.
I also think that it is significantly different to see someone telling their story versus reading like a Reddit post about it. When I'm watching someone tell their story, like, I don't know, am I always right about people? Absolutely not. But it's just hard for me to believe that this many people are good actors, you know, generally.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So any sort of time travel in movies and TV shows is always fascinating to me. Like, I always get into those shows and I actually watch some sometimes, you know?
Did you like the show Sliders?
I've never heard of that. I don't know what you're saying to me.
What? Dude, we were children when this came out. Sliders.
No.
Tell me why I just typed in Sliders into Google. Like it was going to know that I meant a television show from the 90s and not give me recipes for small sandwiches.
I didn't have cable growing up, though, so I didn't watch a lot of things.
No, I don't think this was on like a cable thing.
Oh, I don't know.
This series follows a group of travelers as they use a wormhole to slide between different parallel universes. Never mind, that's parallel universes, not time. Ignore me.
Okay, well, no, I haven't seen it. It looks interesting, though. I just pulled up the IMDb.
It came out in 1995. I love the idea that I was like 8 when this show was out, and I have such a fond memory of it.
Well, all of us have watched some sort of show or movie or something with time travel, right? Like everyone's seen at least something.
It's hard to avoid.
Yeah. But when you're thinking of it happening in real life, especially unexpectedly, like that you didn't know was going to happen, that terrifies me.
Yeah. I mean, as it should, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we've touched slightly on the possible time travel before in our multiverse episode, by the way. Which has been a minute. But today we're going to discuss some accounts of people experiencing different types of time slips. And then we're going to talk about the theories as to why they might be happening.
Yeah.
Our favorite part.
Okay, so let's get into our first story. So this first one takes place on Bold Street in Liverpool, which is in England. And this street, it has little shops and cafes and pubs and restaurants. It's considered a historic walking and scenic area on travel sites. And from all the photos that we looked at for this, it looks like it's like a pretty busy, bustling little place. Like it's a place where people are visiting and going to a lot. It's not kind of like a little ghost town, you know? Like there's plenty of people, plenty of foot traffic, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. Every travel site that I saw was like, if you wanted to shop while in Liverpool, you go here.
Yeah. So there have been several occurrences along this same street, which seems strange to us. And the first one involved an off-duty police officer named Frank. So Frank and his wife Carol were out shopping in Liverpool in July of 1996. And they were at Central Station when they decided to split up for a bit.
I wonder if they were watching Sliders before this.
Shit, they probably were watching Sliders before this. Now you can't cut that out. He was like, fuck, I'm going to slide. So they were at Central Station when they decided to split up for a bit. Carol went to a place called Dylan's Bookshop, shockingly, to buy a book. And it was on Bold Street, because, you know, that's where we are. And then Frank decided to go to a record store that was on a different street so he could buy a CD, because people used to buy their music physically.
90s.
Yeah. So about 20 minutes later, he starts heading towards the bookstore so he can meet back up with Carol. And he's walking up the incline leading to Bold Street. And as he's walking, he noticed that it gets very quiet, which, you know, strange, because a moment ago, we're talking about how it's bustling. There's people, there's cars, there's stuff going on. So for it to just get quiet, think of like you're in the woods and you suddenly hear nothing. There's no crickets, there's no birds. It's just dead silent. The feeling you would get there,
unsettling.
I think you could copy and paste that feeling to if you're in a city and the city goes silent, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So he's standing in this silence, and then all of a sudden, a small box van sped by him, and they're beeping their horn, which I'm going to say aggressively, and they almost hit him, which bizarre. And this is super strange because the last time he had been there, this was an area that was set up just for pedestrians. And so that box van really stood out too, because it looked like it was from the 1950s. And on the side of it, the van said Kaplan's. And so, I don't know, so we're thinking like no sound. Then you've got this old timey box van speeding by you, beeping in a place where it shouldn't be. And also, of all of the types of vehicles that you might see that is a vintage vehicle, I feel like a box van isn't one of them, because those are utility vehicles that you're going to use a lot.
Yeah.
So after this, he's like, okay, weird. Crosses the street and he gets confused because where the bookstore was supposed to be, it was not. Instead, there was a store there with the name Crips above it, and there was 2 entrances. So Frank walks over to Crips, which should be Dylan's bookshop. And he looks in the window and he's like, there are no books in here. This is bizarre. And instead, he sees handbags and shoes. So he is puzzled, as one would be. So he looks around and he's like, that's weird. And that's when he notices that all of the people who are walking around him are wearing older styled clothing.
Wild.
Do not like that. And just like the box van he saw, it looked like it was in the 1950s.
So Frank really started considering that he somehow went back in time, which, like, what else would cause all of this, right? Old style cars, a shop that wasn't there before, people wearing weird outfits, super weird. But then he spots a 20-ish-year-old woman walking, and she's wearing mid-90s clothes. So like same time frame as him, everyone else completely different. She walks past him and she's heading into crypts. They both acknowledge each other, like a little smile as someone walks by if you notice they're looking at you, right? And for him, it was reassuring to see someone with clothes that he was used to, because he's like, okay, maybe it's not just me alone.
Fair.
So then he decides, I'm going to follow her into the store because okay. We're in this together at this point.
Yeah.
But as he entered the building, everything was suddenly back to what he expected. It was all of a sudden a bookstore again, and he was inside Dylan's. This freaked him out. And I don't love this, but from what I saw, Frank grabbed the girl's arm as he had followed her in, and he was like, did you just see that? And she's like, yeah, I thought this was like a new shop that had opened. I was going to go look for clothes, and now it's a bookshop. And then she kind of laughed and walked out of the store. Like, she's so chill.
So in my head, I think that the first place that I would have went was, did I somehow stumble onto a movie set? Like, that's where I think I would go.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't know if you've been out in like these shopping areas, right? Where it's like store after store, then cafe, and there's so much. And sometimes their doors are so close together. And so you look inside one and then you're like, oh, wait, the door to go into the shop is like the next one. That's probably what I would have thought. Like, oh, I probably just went in the wrong door or something.
Yeah.
But they both made that same mistake if that were the case.
Yeah.
But anyways, so Frank goes into the bookshop. He finds his wife and he tells her about what happened. And she's like, well, I didn't experience anything weird. Nothing out of the ordinary. Everything's fine. So weird, right? He's just like, okay, well, I know that other girl saw this too.
Yeah.
Well, then there's a paranormal expert named Tom Sleman, and he was told about this encounter and he shared it on a radio show. Within minutes, people started calling in to let him know that back in the 50s or 60s, there was a store called Crypts, and it was in that exact location that the bookstore was in the 90s.
Fascinating.
Additionally, they advised him that there was a business called Kaplan's that was around that same time. So that would explain the van that almost hit him.
I just also feel like I would go ahead and do that research immediately.
Mm-hmm.
America Online existed in 1996. One could dial up.
He was too busy watching Sliders.
Yeah, I mean, fair.
So then later on, Sleman was also contacted by others because they had also experienced weird things around that same area of Bold Street. So he has been, we'll talk about him a little bit again, but he's talked to a lot of these people that have had these experiences. And I guess on a certain radio show, he has shared them sometimes and have people call in to like verify things.
Yeah.
I thought was kind of fun.
Yeah.
So there is another story also on Bold Street. And this story involves a young woman named Imogen. And she decided to go shopping for some baby clothes for her sister Abigail, who had just had a baby. While shopping, she was stoked to see a new mother care store had just opened, and that was on the corner of Lord Street and Whitechapel. So I went on Google Maps and was trying to find this intersection and just trying to understand what this area looked like. And it's not necessarily on Bold Street, but it's like a continuation of Bold Street, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like if you're walking, you will eventually hit this area and it kind of all looks the same.
Yeah. So Imogen goes into the store and she shops and she ends up with some cardigans, some baby bibs, some gloves, and she's pretty excited too because it's pretty cheap. She's like, okay. And she's like, well, maybe it's just a new store and they have a really good grand opening sale. And so she brings everything up to the counter and she pulls out her credit card and then goes to pay the associate. And the person looks at her strangely and then goes and gets their manager. When the manager comes back, they look at the card. I'm assuming they also look at her strangely and say, we don't accept cards, which in modern times is very bizarre.
Oh, yeah.
It's more likely now that a place will be cashless than cardless.
Exactly.
I feel like there's very few. Anyway. So Imogen was sad because she was like, such sales. And then went and put everything back because she didn't have any cash on her. So when she got home, she told her mother about what had happened and that, this new store opened. And her mom gets super confused and says, that store closed years ago. There's a bank there now. Actually, that's where I have my account. And if you look on Google Maps, at the corner of Lord and Whitechapel, there's an HSBC UK there.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. However, it looks like Mother Care, like the brand, went out of business in around 2019, and that most of the stores had closed by 2020. And we tried to research if there had been a Mother Care store in that area, and the closest one we were able to find was about 4 minutes away if they were walking.
So like close, but like interesting that her mom was familiar with that area and said, oh, but my bank's there now.
Yeah.
But when we were looking at old Mother Care location listings, and like there are some in the area, it's just I never saw one on this particular corner.
Yeah.
But people were very upset when it closed, apparently.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of it before.
Well, I wonder, it might be like a Europe-only brand or like an England-only brand.
Oh, yeah.
But we looked up to when the stores started opening. And so they started opening in 1961. But credit cards weren't like really popular and in use until the 70s and 80s. And I would even say like well into the 90s, there were stores that did not take credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they did, they took like one type.
Yeah.
But Imogen's mom did not believe her. So she was like, I'm going to go there and just do a little double check. And she gets there and she's like, yep, it's still a bank. It's not a Mother Care. And we couldn't find any other information about this after that. Or if Imogen ever went back and found that she saw the same thing.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. But interesting. Like that would be very strange.
Yes. So far, we've given a couple of stories where people have slipped into the past. And so this next one is a possible time slip into the future. In July of 1984, Jimmy and Bob, who were two painters, were on their way home from Upton, England. They had just finished a job in Bebington. And so on the way home, they were planning to talk to a farmer about a fence painting job. But their van broke down on Landacane Lane. I'm doing the best I can. Am I saying these wrong? Possibly. I'm sorry if I am. So Bob opens the hood to look at the engine, and Jimmy's like, well, I'm just going to roll a cigarette. And so he rolls a cigarette while Bob's looking inside the car. And Jimmy's like, I'm just going to take a little walk. So he walks away and is looking in a nearby field. And it's a beautiful day, very sunny, no clouds. And Bob's, under the hood, tinkering, doing whatever he is. And Jimmy calls over to him and is like, hey, come look at this. So Bob, gets out from inside like the hood of whatever he was doing and walks over. And as he's walking over to Jimmy, he's like, that's kind of weird, because Jimmy was like crouched, like he was hiding. And I would imagine like you don't often see like grown men hiding, like they're playing hide and go seek. So I could see why that would be a little bit funny. So he sees Jimmy like hiding behind the sign, and he remembers thinking like, oh, this is funny. And so as he's walking over, he sees this, and then he sees why Jimmy called him over. And in the field, there is a huge aircraft. They estimated it to be hundreds of feet in length sitting in the fields, and it was just about like 200 yards away, so pretty close. It was all white with windows and panels, and it had wings on either side. On the top, there were two dome structures, and as Bob was staring at the object, Jimmy was reading the sign that he was hiding behind, and it said Heswall Spaceport.
Weird.
And then to the right of that sign was a long royal blue rectangular metal sign that had an emblem. And the emblem on it, Bob originally mistook for the logo of Midland Bank. Hilarious. And it was a red lion surrounded by a circle of 12 white stars. The Midland Bank logo had a griffin surrounded by a circle of gold coins. So similar-ish. We've got like an animal with big paws surrounded by something.
And if you're like startled or like frazzled at all, you're like, same thing.
Seeing a massive aircraft, But then Bob also read the words Republic of Britain next to the symbol.
Weird.
Mm-hmm.
And as a reminder, this is in 84.
Mm-hmm.
So the two start discussing what the hell they're looking at. Right. And they're asking each other things like, when did they build this? Is it a plane? Is it a spaceship? Right. I'd be confused by the sign, too.
Mm-hmm.
Even today, I'd be like, spaceport?
Yeah, I'd be like, oh.
In a field?
Yeah. Well, I think that if it said spaceport and didn't have what looked like an alien aircraft, I would be like, oh, maybe that's a weird name for a storage facility. But then seeing a futuristic aircraft, I would be very confused.
Right. And like, it's in a field. You could walk up to it.
Yeah.
It's not like behind crazy fences or whatever. It's like you're driving along and I could drive up to the spaceship.
Yeah, it's not a government secret. It's just hanging.
Yeah.
In a hangar. I'm sorry.
She's
so
on
sorry.
one today.
I am on one today.
So they chat for a minute and they're trying to figure out what they want to do. They ultimately decided that they just need to get the hell out, right? They need to get away from this thing, especially because what if it was like some top secret military exercise? I would be like, am I an idiot that drove past some weird fence earlier? Or like, did I go on to somewhere I'm not supposed to be accidentally? So of course they're like, we need to get the fuck out. We're done. So as they were discussing how to put some distance between them and this object, Bob's like, wait, we can't just leave the van here. Now, remember, the van broke down. So as he said that, the object that they were looking at emitted a super loud wailing siren.
Nah.
Then red lights start flashing from the two domes on the top, and then the damn thing took off. And as it did, the ground below them rumbled and shook. So they're just standing there watching this thing take off. Like, I would be like, do they know I'm here? Like, am I blending in with the field?
Yeah.
Well, while they're doing that, Bob notices the lion symbol was also on the hull of the ship.
And he's like, wait, Midland doesn't have aircrafts. Maybe I was wrong.
Yeah. Within the minute, the object was gone, so it was very quick. Bob then notices that there's another one of these things in another nearby field. It was just kind of further away, but this one wasn't moving. No sirens, no nothing. It's just chilling. So there's multiple of these things. They decide again, they're like, we need to get the hell out now. And they start heading back to the van. They somehow get it to work and they go straight home. In doing so, they did forget to go talk to the farmer about his fence.
I mean, that feels fair.
When they told people about what they had experienced, obviously, no one believed them. Initially, Jimmy told Bob, don't tell anyone, because he was worried that everyone was going to think that they were crazy. And they actually almost had a falling out over it because he's like, no, keep the secret. And then Bob's like, but I want to share this.
He's like, I need some support for this, like, fuckery that I just witnessed.
Yeah. So Bob told his wife and his brother-in-law. And of course, the word traveled around the area. Unfortunately, Jimmy was right. And they became the butt of a lot of jokes. So everyone was making fun of them for their weird spaceship that they saw. Eventually, the pair went back down to Latican Lane to look for the sign, and they saw nothing. No spaceships, no sign, nothing that they had seen that day. Now, Slemon, who we had talked about earlier, discussed this encounter on a radio show as well, and many people advised that they had seen UFOs over that field before in that area. Slemon believes that what these two men saw was not a UFO, though, but potentially a future commercial spacecraft from Earth.
I think that sounds more accurate given the signage.
Mm-hmm.
It's also just interesting too in this situation because there was two people who saw the same thing.
Right. They were both together. They both saw the same things and they confirmed with each other what they were seeing as they were speaking.
Yes. So this next story is a little different, but we still think that it falls within a type of time slip. So in 2001, Sebastian Garrido, who was 26, was traveling so that he could go visit his sadly dying grandfather, Hiram Garrido, in the hospital. So while Sebastian was on his way, he saw a man standing on the road. And as he got closer, he realized that it was his grandfather. However, it was a much younger version of his grandfather, like when he was in his 40s or 50s.
Weird.
And so obviously he pulls over or slows down, right? And his grandfather says to him, "Fancy meeting you here. Everything will be okay. Tell your dad I'll be fine." And then just disappeared.
So strange.
So Sebastian got goosebumps, then threw up.
As you do.
Very reasonable, right? Very reasonable. And then took off to the hospital, right? So his grandfather was still alive when he got there, thankfully. But he only had a few weeks to live. He was 86. And when he saw him, his grandfather said, "I saw you in a dream." Sebastian had been interviewed about this experience and called it the weirdest experience of his life. Again, fair. And he said that it gave him a different perspective on life and death. But this is not the first time something weird has happened to him. When he was a child, he dreamt of someone and then he saw that exact person in life later. So that really makes me think of like astral projection, right? Like that's just what that feels like to me.
Me too. That does too, especially because he said, "I saw you in a dream." I thought astral projection.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess this could be a type of time slip as well. When we get to the theories, it'll make a little bit more sense as to the different types.
Yeah.
But to me, astral projection is the first thing that I thought.
But I also think that, like, follow me here. If places exist on an astral plane and time exists in perpetuity and time exists indefinitely as it is and then as it becomes, you can, on an astral plane of sorts, visit any time period on purpose or on accident, right? So my brain just broke saying that. But like an interesting one. Okay, let's continue.
Yeah. So our next story may be another type of time slip, but it could be a variety of different things. But we wanted to include the experience that some people have felt when visiting a location that's deemed to be haunted. So some people that have visited very haunted locations feel like they have been, for a short time usually, transported to a different era. And on a list of these places, one really, really stood out to me.
Shock.
And there is a place that we have talked about where several visitors have reported strange feelings like this. And that place is the Villisca Axe Murder House, because everything goes back to Villisca.
A solid first episode.
Solid first episode. First episode of the year, first episode ever. It works. So people have reported experiencing time slips within the house. And typically it's when they go to visit, it's a museum during the day, and they get like this weird feeling while they're there. But something that we considered is maybe that's what happened when we visited. Now hear me out. If you've listened to our Villisca visit episode, our friend Nora walked upstairs. We were all having a great time. And then she just started bawling. And she didn't even know why. She was just like, I don't know. Perhaps she somehow experienced a feeling due to a time slip when she walked into that room.
I would also say, in that same vein, any haunting experience would fall into this, because whether you're experiencing a feeling, like an emotional sense, or you're seeing something, or you're smelling something, perhaps that's just something that was there before and it's not in this moment. It's also interesting because in this situation, it could be that the place itself is the trigger for the experience.
Yeah.
Or the person is, or that it requires a combination of the two, which would explain why not every single person, steps onto the fourth plank in the kitchen and then gets pushed,
Right.
But interesting.
Right. I thought it was a very interesting perspective to think that haunted places and experiencing something haunting is a time slip, but I loved it.
Yeah. I mean, even hearing something too.
You don't know.
People will often hear like bells that don't exist.
Someone screaming. Whatever. But definitely strange to think about. But when we talk about some of these theories next, I think it's going to make a little bit more sense as to why that could be included.
Yeah.
So our favorite part, theories. What could be causing time slips? And some believe that it could be related to déjà vu. And if you don't know what déjà vu is, it's a sensation of experiencing an event that seems familiar, even though it's the first time that you're experiencing it. And some researchers believe that déjà vu is caused by a malfunction in the brain's memory system, which leads to the sensation that you've experienced something that you haven't. Now, some believe that a time slip may just be an extreme form of this, which I'm like, okay, sure, could be. Others believe that it may be a way to cope psychologically with trauma. I feel like in all of these stories that we told today, I don't necessarily think that it falls into that category. I don't know their full pass, but that just seems like a little bit of a stretch for me.
Fair. It also might have something to do with electromagnetic fields. So Dr. Sirian O'Keefe, a Buckinghamshire New University psychologist, said, quote, research from Canadian academics shows that such energy fields can produce hallucinations by toying with signals in the brain. Bold Street, for example, happens to be right above the center of the city's underground rail network. So it's possible that the electric signals from the railway are somehow causing hallucinations to occur.
I feel like it would be more common.
Disagree. I just dis-fucking agree.
Yeah.
I just feel like if we were all... Two things. If we were all hallucinating because of magnets, I feel like, do you know where I'm about to go with this? We'd be fucked. But also, because I'm watching What We Do in the Shadows, the things that they use vampire semen for are to look young and to make magnets work. The witches, when they... Okay, but so, yeah. I think Amanda and I agree, though, that if that was the case, that would be a big problem. Like, we wouldn't be doing this if that was the case.
I feel like people would be freaking out a lot more.
Yeah. And so Although Dr. O'Keefe has said that he doesn't believe in time slips personally, he's mentioned that modern physics does not rule them out.
Terrifying.
Additionally, because we mentioned the rail network, some paranormal researchers believe that in certain locations, they may become portals because of man-made structures and underground tunnels. So this is similar to when we talked about ley lines where the ancient sites were linked and it created like a magnetism of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
That it's basically like that. And we talked about ley lines and such in our Owlman episode. A fun time through and through. So the theory is that someone may be unknowingly walking through a time portal that is acting as a gateway to a different era.
Yes.
Okay, maybe.
Interesting.
So additionally, O'Keefe has a few other theories as well that could contribute to why this is happening. He suggests tiredness, hunger, fear, excitement, alcohol, prescription drugs could all cause these hallucinations, or that some forms of psychological or physiological conditions. So he's just like, it's a hallucination for a reason, TBD.
Everything.
Yeah. And then another one of O'Keefe's theories is that these are caused by cognitive errors, such as confirmation bias, meaning that you already have a belief and then your brain sorts common beliefs that support that idea into your head. So like if you walk down the street and you see an old truck and then you're like, that looks like an old truck. I wonder if I time traveled. Then you're going to find evidence of time travel. Or like, for example, say you're a person who's like, you know what? All cats are jam cats and all jam cats are thieves. So that means all cats are thieves. Is that true of all cats? No. But it means that every time you see a cat stealing something, you might think, oh, that's just proof that cats are thieves, even though it's only jam cats that are thieves because they're part of the jam cat cult. You know what I'm saying?
Of course. Of course. Another callback to an old episode.
Anytime I can pull out jam cats to explain something, I will.
Perfect.
Also, hi, Mary, our jam cat. Anywho, so from how Dr. O'Keefe explains it, that car would be the anchor, right? So like that's like where your original thought comes from. And then you just start to build other things based on that.
Like I could see that sometimes, but I feel like it wouldn't account for all of the stories.
I just think that most people are not going to automatically jump to, I have gone to a different time period. And the stories that we've told today, for example, right? I don't think that Imogen walked into the bank and started fake shopping to the tellers, right? She had a vivid recollection of like these actions and talking to people, and even noticed like that they looked at her strangely when she handed them the credit card. Their experiences are so detailed. It doesn't make sense to me, I guess, is what I'm saying, is that
right.
I could see if a person was like, oh, I was in a historic area, so I assumed I went back in time. But that's not the reason why the people are saying that. It's because they're seeing things from a different time period. Like, it's not like I'm on cobblestone, so therefore I'm in the olden times. It's, no, I saw people dressed as people from the 1950s. I saw a car from the 1950s. I saw a store that is not there.
Yeah, yeah. And like, that's interesting for her story too, because she interacted with people of that time.
Yes.
So his last theory is that a time slip has something to do with altered states of consciousness, or ASC. Typically, this happens when you're in bed falling asleep, or maybe when you just woke up. It's when you're dreaming, but you're semi-conscious, and it can cause your brain to become confused and mix dreams and reality. Which, like, I feel like all of us have experienced that, like when you're almost asleep and you have, like, I don't know, the TV on and you're listening to it, and then that's kind of mixing in, or
yeah,
something, you know, your cat's doing. Usually mine, but yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Now, this probably wouldn't happen while walking down the street, though, but I guess it doesn't sound impossible.
And if you're thinking of altered states of consciousness, it's not just like when you would be falling asleep, right? It's anytime you could be like kind of inebriated or in like a trance-like state, right? So I just feel like these people would have known that they were in that state before then.
Right.
But for some like medical emergency, right? Like I could see like, then they passed out. Then I might second guess what they saw.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. And I don't know, the average person isn't like, it's time to go shop for my new niece or nephew. I'm going to be on drugs, right?
Right,
like, I don't,
right.
You know, like these situations didn't lend themselves to times when people would be in a chemically induced strange period.
Right. The only other thing that I could think of is like when you're doing something extremely mundane or something that you've done a million times. And, you know, like when your body takes autopilot over what you're doing because you've done it so much.
Yeah. Like when you've driven to the same place a bunch of times.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, I don't know if you've done that. You're driving somewhere and you're thinking of something or you're doing something and then you're like, oh, I'm here. How did I get here? Like,
Yeah.
I don't remember because it's so boring. So maybe if people were driving, but like all these people have gotten out of their cars and interacted or gone into stores and that sort of thing. So I don't know. Now we're going to get real science-y here.
Science.
Science. This is real science. Now, some people believe it's caused by quantum mechanics.
That's often what I say things are for. Why it happens is quantum mechanics.
I'm going to blame quantum mechanics on everything.
Probably just quantum mechanics. Like, I'm just going to start saying that. It's probably just quantum mechanics and nothing else.
No one will question you.
Yeah. Only when it doesn't make sense. When someone's like, the last time I had this dish, it was spicier. I'm like, probably just quantum mechanics. Classic quantum mechanics. I keep saying botanics too. Like,
I mean, you're very sciencey.
Science.
Well, of course, because we are scientists, we're going to become quantum mechanics scientists now. It's time. We've trained for this.
Have we trained for this?
Yes. And by trained, using Google. So first, quantum mechanics is a branch of physics that deals with the behavior of matter and energy at the atomic and subatomic level. It sounded real sciencey there.
Just watch Ant-Man. You know what I mean? They'll explain it.
Watch Ant-Man will explain everything. Honestly, it will.
It's how you get to Michelle Pfeiffer.
It is. It is how you get there. So yeah, episode done. Turn on Ant-Man. It'll tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Well, if you want me to keep talking about quantum mechanics.
I mean, if we have to. No, I'm kidding.
Seriously, this was a lot. So, some better scientists than us have theorized that time slips may be the result of quantum mechanical processes, like these two examples. Again, science, okay? The first example, the collapse of wave functions. And for this theory, the collapse of wave function can cause a sudden shift in the probability of an event occurring.
Oh.
Leading to a sudden change in the observer's perception of time and space.
Indubitably.
Okay.
Like, Amanda and I always have an outline when we have an episode, and like typically like the information is there, but we're not like reading it, but sometimes you can tell. That one was just pure from Amanda's brain. She didn't read that at all. No need. That's locked in her brain because she's seen Ant-Man.
Because I've seen Ant-Man, and I Googled a lot of quantum mechanics this weekend.
Boy, did she.
So,
thanks, Amanda.
My husband walked in. He's like, what the hell are you researching? This is for true creeps. And I was like, we get really sciencey. You would know if you listened.
And he's like, ooh, hard pass.
He's like, I see why you've been in here for hours. And then he walked away. It's like, are you calling me dumb?
And then you said indubitably with your monocle.
So, second process. The existence of parallel universes. Like, we know about this. We've talked about this, right? And some speculate that we're living in just one of many possible universes, and that a time slip is just when you cross over to the other one for just a brief time. Like, okay, I get that. That can work. I don't know how you're doing it, but sure, you did it.
But also, if you're thinking about it in that way, then a lot of women on TikTok have a lot of opinions on how you can do this. Do you know what I'm saying? That one I find interesting because we're like, if you want to manifest your best timeline, you just do X, Y, Z. And I'm like I do, but I also feel guilty about like, what about the me on that timeline? Where's she going? Is she going to go into this timeline? Because I don't want that for her.
Let's switch.
No.
Oh no, let's switch. I've been here long enough. It's her turn to do the time.
It's like, I'm fucking out. Your turn.
Now, remember, we're real sciencey right now.
Yeah, very serious, indubitably.
Maybe it has something to do with general relativity.
I mean, maybe it does. That's also another, just if someone asks you a question and you don't have an answer, but you don't want them to know you don't have an answer, I think you could absolutely say, it probably has something to do with general relativity. Just like that, but say it
just
more,
like that.
Enunciate it perhaps a bit better. It'll help with the credibility, but say, maybe it has something to do with general relativity. And then that person won't know what that is because I feel like most people don't.
No, they won't ask you any follow-up questions.
no follow-up, done. But if they do, I am sorry, you are fucked.
No, their response will be like, maybe, and then just look at you puzzled. Like, okay.
I'll be like, again, what does this have to do with why is this less spicy than before?
So all my scientists gather around. We're going to talk about general relativity. In the worst way.
Cool.
These notes took so long. Okay, so general relativity essentially is a theory of gravity, right? That's not so bad.
Okay.
It is the basic idea that instead of being an invisible force that attracts objects to one another, gravity is a curving or warping of space. The more massive an object, the more it warps the space around it. So, some sciencey people have theorized that time slips occur near black holes where the intense gravity causes a significant warping of space-time.
So the idea there is that, again, gravity, not just a force that pulls you down, it's this warping thing. And here, our big thing is the black hole. So we've got a black hole. So gravity is going to do what gravity do, which is warp it and make it look bigger and do all types of weird fucking things.
Yeah, gravity's going to do what gravity do and be weird. Yeah. Perfect.
Perfect.
On NASA's website, they talk about a strange phenomenon that a traveler would observe when close to a black hole, and that would be time dilation, which would be time passing slower closer to the black hole than further away. It would happen because massive objects, like black holes, create strong gravitational fields that curve and stretch the fabric of space-time. So how does that relate to any of this, right? I did not see how this would affect the average person walking down the street that experiences a time slip. But like, I guess maybe if you went close to a black hole. But the idea that someone out there one day will be able to study how this works near a black hole, and then maybe that same phenomenon somehow is happening on Earth, I don't know. Was I looking at how black holes were formed? Where are they? Where's the closest one? Has it been very close to us before? Trying to figure out maybe it could have impacted us somehow. I don't see it, but there are better scientists than I that may know.
I just think it's interesting too, because when we think of the world, science, history, there are some things that we act as though they are capital T truth. And I think that one of those things is that our perception of what we see is what there is. And most cultures have some sort of a religion associated with them, right? Where they have figured out a way to describe the indescribable. And it's interesting that as we venture further into like what we can do technology wise, that we are finding these explanations for things and proof of things that exist out in the world. But because we don't have, most of us, right, a real world example of what it means, it all seems so like nebulous and unrelated to what we're seeing and experiencing. And you don't think of, they're doing black hole research. They're talking about quantum mechanics. They're talking about general relativity. And you're not pairing that with what people call fake or junk science, like pseudoscience, like ghosts and weird shit that we see, and saying like, but is this why? Right?
How are they related? Are they related?
How are they related? And like, I don't know. If all of this can happen because you are nearer or farther from a black hole, what happens if you have a prolonged exposure to that?
You age differently, from what I understand.
Ugh, see? I don't fucking know. Wild.
Weird.
I'm sorry if your brain's bleeding, but it's interesting. Okay, we're going to move back. We're going to get a little easier.
Yeah. I sandwiched that, the sandwich method, right?
Yeah, we did a little sandwich of like, no worries, chill, jam cats. Anyway, quantum mechanics, casually. But it's okay. Our next theory is that time slips aren't actually time slips, but that it's just a mistaken location. And an example would be that if you're going to a new area and you get a little bit confused in your exact location, you try to retrace your steps, right? Because you're like, where did I park my car? And you're suddenly looking at this area in a new way. So you're seeing things in a different way than you would have. Like you saw a pretty house or a notable store, and then you retrace your steps and you're noticing like there's a bookshop right there. Or like maybe it was there before, you just didn't see it because you were on your way to something, you know, like you just missed it before. Interesting. It could be something silly like you turned a street early. So you think you're seeing like an old timey store, but you're just not on Main Street yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Like you made the turn early. So you are looking at these houses. And then on your way back home, you're like, where'd those houses go? Now I'm seeing stores or, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that makes sense. Have I done that before? Probably, because I'm lost all the time. Have I thought I went to a different period of time? Not yet.
Not
it's
yet.
Coming.
Maybe. So another theory is that these time slips might be tied to a person's other types of abilities that maybe they don't know they have. Maybe they're clairvoyant. Another example would be a person using a technique called remote viewing, but not knowing that they're doing it. And if remote viewing sounds familiar, it's because the CIA released documents not too long ago surrounding some studies on a program that was called Remote Viewing Program. In the experiments, a remote viewer was asked to visualize a location, object, or place that was being viewed by a sender. And they're describing it to a second person in their head, not verbally. They're just sending the info. And then that second person has to be able to figure out the place or thing that they're sending. Fascinating.
So there was a similar test done on a Vice show, and I thought it was very interesting. So what they did is they had a remote viewer write down what a sender was seeing. And so they sent the sender out into the world, and they were by like, I don't know if it was a river or something, but some sort of water source. And then there was these like big rock areas that they were looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And the remote viewer was writing things down like water and some information about the structures they were seeing. Then what they did is they took his notes and they gave them to what they called judges. There was 5 judges total. And each judge opened the notes from the viewer and then opened envelopes with photos of various areas. They have no idea what the experiment is, by the way. They're just like, we're being told if these notes match any of these areas. That's all they were told.
Okay.
So they go through the viewer's notes and look at the random locations that they're given in these envelopes. So 4 out of the 5 judges picked the right location's picture just based off of what the remote viewer person was scribbling down that they were seeing.
Interesting.
Weird, right? I love it. But like, I don't know if someone would somehow tap into someone, or maybe they were close with someone. They're seeing something that they might be watching on a movie or reading about.
It's also, though, have you ever played the game Catchphrase?
Which one is that one?
Okay, it's got like it's like a little circle, and there's like a little phrase in the center, and you're on teams. And the big thing is, like, you can talk. You just can't, if you were doing, I don't know, you're trying to get someone to guess true creeps, you couldn't be like, rhymes with room reaps, right? Like, you couldn't do it like that easily. But so a good example is Ben got, is the band Owl City. And so he was like, night bird, not a town. Still the funniest thing in the world to me, right? But the idea is that like, he did explain what it was. And so I think that depending on how someone explained a place, you could match a picture. Like, that doesn't feel like, ooh, that's just like, how's your deductive reasoning? Like, what? I don't know. I would be intrigued by that. Yeah.
Right. So strange. I love the idea of it. It's interesting. Also, the CIA stuff always fascinates us, right? When like they release information of weird tests that they've done.
I mean, I do. I love a CIA document pull.
Oh, which one specifically?
Operation Midnight Climax, baby. But I find this kind of like this application of remote viewing as a bit strange, though, right? Because here you have a person receiving the image that is not purposely receiving the image.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see how like the idea is that the person who is experiencing the time slip is the recipient of remote viewing from a different time period. So a person would have to be the recipient, which means that there has to be a person on the other side who is purposely sending them visions of that time period, which then I'm like, oh my God, the past is sending me fucking messages to tell me that I need to go back and find this book in this weird bookstore, or buy a purse from this lady, or I need to make sure this spaceport is never built. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it would make me think of. And it feels honestly a bit too fantastic even for me.
It's something. It's definitely something.
Yeah.
So I love this next one, but it also very much freaks me out. The person experiencing the time slip may be connecting with the mind of a dead person who lived in the past through some sort of telepathy.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll tell you my theory at the end because remember this one.
Yes. What an ability to not know that you have, by the way. Like, not knowing, and then you're just like, oh, I keep seeing this shit from the 1950s and not understanding why.
Well, no, but I'll tell you that this takes us right back to clairvoyance, because clairvoyance is not just, oh, I see like a person in front of me. It is receiving images in that way. And it can be from like spirit of a different time. You know what I'm saying? So like, absolutely.
Right.
I find that less fantastic than that some rando is sending me mind messages about how this is a bookstore or how this is a clothing store now, not a bookstore.
So, okay, let's see. So just to dive deeper into this, some believe that when you interact with a spirit of the past, it can cause a sudden shift in time and space, which creates the time slip. And then to piggyback on that theory, some speculate that we are all ghosts, and sometimes we get glimpses of other ghosts or different times.
So like The Others.
Yes.
Nicole Kidman, baby.
That movie is so weird. But anyways, one theory even suggested that when we see or communicate with what we believe is a ghost, it could actually just be another person existing in another time, universe, or place.
Okay, I'm going to put the most random thing out there. If you've read a book that is about this very recently, Nora, then there are books out there that literally are that. I'm not going to say the name of it because I don't want to give it away because it's a surprise. But if you've read that book, let us know, because you'll know. It's not a book that I'm going to also say that I read in a podcast. Anyhow.
Oh, no. I know what type of books you guys read.
Yes.
So another one is the person is somehow experiencing a parallel universe briefly or a timeline shift. So not quite the same thing, but we kind of mentioned it earlier, but they're like popping into another universe for just a minute. As like many things we talk about, it also could just be a massive hoax, either for attention or, you know, they've heard a story and then they're piggybacking off of that story and making it their own. Totally could happen, right? Some of them probably are. Now, this one we made up all by ourselves because everything is, right? What if it's some sort of a tulpa? And this is a little far-fetched, but maybe the many time slips happening, especially in like a particular space or like the same area, could be tulpa related. And think about it, like if everyone's talking about this time slip that someone did and it's like talked about and widely discussed and people are like hoping to experience it, maybe they're creating something from it. Maybe they're creating that car. Maybe they're creating the store. I don't know. But, you know, everything's a tulpa.
In that same vein, one, we've talked about the Queen Mary and how there was a fake haunted room that then became a real haunted room. So we know that a place can become a tulpa, but also in that same vein of the confirmation bias from earlier, if you're thinking like, okay, a person is on a place that has cobblestone streets that looks quaint and charming and old, could they create that many tulpas around them where they literally created their surroundings? I would just venture to guess that if that happened once, it would be happening a lot. And if someone did have the ability to do that, big if, I just feel like, one, they would call that, I think that would be schizophrenia, because that would be delusions outside of you, right?
Yeah.
But they would call that delusions. They wouldn't act as though that was a real thing. But like, it's interesting that if someone could do that, we'd be like, mentally, we'd be like, it's a disorder.
Oh yeah, immediately,
straight to disorder.
Well, our last theory is that it is a strange phenomena that happens for unknown reasons. And remember, our brains are weird and they can do weird things. We don't know every single thing they're capable of. So maybe one day we'll understand more capabilities of our brains. And maybe that is one of them.
Yeah. So as always, we want to know what you think. Are time slips a real thing or are they made up? Amanda, what do you think?
I mean, I think some of them could be real. Like, I'm sure some of them are made up. But for the people that are like, I don't know, they're going about their day, something happens. And even when they're like hesitant to tell other people about it because they're so afraid of being made fun of. Yeah. Just like the cryptids. Like, I think some people experience things and they can't explain it. What about you?
Okay. So in the beginning, you gave this definition. To sum it up, it's an experience someone can have when they find themselves being transported to a different time period. And that reminds me of a PTSD episode where it feels like you're being briefly transported. For people who have PTSD, traumatic memories aren't stored like memories. They're in active rotation. So as a person who has PTSD, when I have an episode, it does not feel like I'm remembering something. It feels like I am there. Like I say, it feels like time traveling. And I've brought up PTSD before when we were talking about Malvern Manor, in that there was this shadow guy who would run from one of the rooms, and he would like always kind of like disappear at a certain point. It was right before the kitchen. And I brought this up then, and I said, what if sometimes what people are seeing is the lingering energy of what was, for someone, a PTSD trauma memory? The energy was so real and so traumatic for that person that it stayed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You feel me? So what we're seeing there in that loop, it is not necessarily the ghost of the person who was in that room or who lived there, but it's the imprint of that PTSD trauma memory on that space. Like kind of think, I don't know, if you're thinking of like matter and you're thinking of like, if a time period can be forever changed or space can be forever changed energetically, like stained, if you will. Is it an energetic stain that some people are happening into? And for whatever reason, they are predispositioned to see that, whether it's from clairvoyance or because maybe they have PTSD or what have you, right? Because I mean, if you think about, I don't know, for example, a person walking into a room and experiencing someone else's most traumatic moment, of course, that's a stain on that time. Or the sound of someone walking up the stairs, that's a stain on that time, is because if you're the little kid who's sitting in the next room, the sound of someone going up the stairs that should not be is a stain. By the way, we're talking about Velisca here. You know, we knew the Stillinger girls were in that bottom bedroom. Did they hear someone walk up the stairs? And that's what we heard, because we heard that while we were there. So all that to say is that these things that people see and experience, is it a stain on that time period? And that time slips aren't necessarily, I don't know, insert any of the things that we're talking about, but like that a person's picking up on a stain, an energetic stain on a place.
Yeah, like I think that would account for most hauntings, right? I don't know if it would account for the first story where he went to meet his wife and there was another person and like the store.
She could have been in the stain. She could have been there with him.
I mean, she could have been, I guess. Interesting.
And also, the two people who were together, again, could have experienced the stain together.
But a stain from something in the future?
If time is not linear, then a stain is a stain. It seeps through.
Interesting. I want to know more future ones.
Ooh. Well, and also, like, thinking of, like, the fabric of time. If it's staining on one layer, it's staining throughout. Oh, that broke my brain a little bit. Okay, Amanda, do you have a favorite theory, or do we already do this?
What? Quantum mechanics, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Maybe it has something to do with general relativity. Relativity.
I bet it does. I bet it does.
Probably.
But of course, we want to know what your favorite theory is, right?
Always. Always.
And what do you think a time slip is?
Yeah.
I think we'll probably do, hopefully, more time slip episodes, because I was having so much fun researching this one.
Yeah.
And there's so many more stories. There's books of people's experiences. So, like Lindsay was talking about books, that's one of them that I actually have in my Amazon list right now of what I want to read. So
I also I find that people experiencing a different time period generally, like that idea is so fascinating, because I'm like, tell me everything you saw, what it felt like. And as a general ending note, we are so happy to be making more episodes. Amanda and I, we chat when we're not recording, but not nearly as much. But it's always so exciting when we start like the year. It feels like the first day of school, like excitement. I'm like, oh my God, I see my friends. Like that's the feeling. And we're just so excited about this year because we've got so much fun stuff coming up.
Yeah, so much.
Yeah. And with that, have a great weekend.
Thanks for creeping with us.
Thanks for listening, and as always, a special thank you to our patrons who support us via Patreon.
Please see the link in our show notes to learn more about how you, yes you, can begin to haunt the dump, guard vortexes, or even become a scorching Sasquatch.
Ooh. Also in our show notes, you can find the link to our website, more information on our sources, our social media handles, and our merch store.
We'd love for you to keep creeping with us. So if you like this episode, please subscribe, rate, review, and share the show with your fellow creeps and or ghosts.
I beg of you.
We finished our last episode recorded our last episode in like November, I think, late October.
Yeah.
And in November, we went to Disneyland and Universal Studios, and we were in California for a week.
Yeah.
And that went by very fast, but it was so much fun.
When she says we, she does not mean me. She means her family, by the way. I was not invited.
Yeah, I wish.
No,
I did invite
dude,
you.
I'm kidding.
I did.
She probably did. And I was like, no.
I mean, we made the reservation like a year before, so that might be
fair.
why.
It's also that I have not been to Disney since I was 1.5 years old. So when I do go again, I need to go with only adults because I would like to have an experience for me. And if there are children around, I simply won't do that, you know? Which is, I feel like,
that's fair.
Reasonable. You shouldn't be selfish as an adult with children at Disney.
Oh, no, I did everything I wanted. My kid, though, decided that he loves roller coasters all of a sudden. And so we rode the Incredicoaster 9 times one morning.
Oh.
That was fun. I was excited. Mike couldn't do it because he's very old and very fragile. But we had a great time. Oliver and I had a great time.
I am very particular with roller coasters. I go on roller coasters that go forward only, do not go upside down, and are wooden. It's what my dad did. It helped him feel safe.
So like the one roller coaster in the US?
No, there's a few. I don't know why I've told myself that is safer, all of those things.
Okay.
But I went to Halloween Horror Nights with Ben and his mom years ago, and it wasn't a wooden roller coaster, but I was like, does it go upside down or backwards? Because I'm a sensitive tummy girly. And he was like, no, I've been on this. It doesn't. Amanda, guess what it did? It went backwards to then going upside down. And then we just hung out there for a second, like we were 50 Cent in the halftime show a few years ago, where he pops down like a bat. That was us. And so then we're just hanging out. And the things that were coming out of my mouth were unkind, but I stand by it. There was a lot of expletives, and I was very mad. And when I got up, I was like, like I was stressed.
Oh,
and you know what? I haven't been on one since, and I feel okay about that. I enjoy other things.
You know, Incredicoaster, it's not bad. But the best part is because Ollie and I were going on it over and over again, Mike went to go get us cool drinks. And I tried a peanut butter latte, and it was life-changing. It was so good. So good. I think I had like 5 of them while I was there.
I can tell you with absolute certainty that if I went on a roller coaster, had a coffee beverage of any sort, and then went on a roller coaster again, I simply would no longer have that in my system.
No, that was after.
It wasn't in between.
After we were done writing it. No, then we went and did a bunch of other rides. We did go back to it that evening.
Okay, but it wasn't like roller coaster, peanut butter latte, roller coaster. I'm nauseous just thinking about that.
No, but if that meant that I could have more peanut butter lattes in order to do it, I would. It was so good. And then in December, I went to a Census Fail concert where I got to do a paint night with the band beforehand.
That's a fun little perk.
If you haven't heard of them, you have to look them up. They're so good. And then, as usual, we had I think 4 Christmases this year. Spent time with a bunch of family, driving the car.
So much Christmas.
So much Christmas. But, I mean, it was a good time overall. What about you? What did you do?
I feel like it's been just such a blur, honestly. Ben and I did a couple events for the Weird Emporium, which is our business, and one of which was a Krampus market, which was really neat. And the person
that looked cool
who was set up next to us was a woman named Ellen, and she made exclusively perchta pottery.
I love that.
And I was like, can you put perchta on a perch? She was like, shut up. And I was like, no, you shut up. Can you make it? She was like, yes. She was also the most reasonable price pottery I've ever seen in my life, which ceramics, very difficult.
So she's making it?
I mean, I think that she would, when the season rolls around, we'll follow up. But she was also dressed, she had the goose foot and everything. It was a treasure, a delight. She was fantastic. But
I love it.
She was selling her mugs for $20, and I was like, I've never seen pottery that's handmade that's so inexpensive.
Yeah,
and it's a hard thing to do, so I understand why it is expensive. I am just a clumsy person, so I can't buy expensive pottery because I'm not responsible enough.
I want Birch on a Perch. That's her nickname, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been 100 years.
Yeah.
Birch. Yeah. So she could put Birch on a perch.
A little ornament.
Oh, yeah. Everyone wants that.
Yeah.
That'd fly off the shelves.
Yeah. And they do a little parade as part of the thing too. So that was neat. And then my mother-in-law came to town. So like before she came in, Ben and I were doing like a bunch of decluttering, which doesn't sound fun, but this is what
It's rewarding.
40 and almost 40 is like an exciting time. Is like, oh, the clutter's up. And like then Ben's mom came to town. We hung out, went to a bunch of cool restaurants. We always do like a food tour of all the places that like are amazing when she's here. And then I started watching What We Do in the Shadows, which I tried to start a few times and I was like, but this time it finally hit because I figured like I was like, I need to just get myself into a silly mood, you know? And then
I've been waiting for this moment for years.
Yeah. Yeah. And so has my bestie Damien. He was like, text me as you're watching things. He's like, tell me when you meet Jackie Daytona.
I mean, he named his dog Laszlo.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, his dog's name is Laszlo.
Yeah. I appreciated that so much when he adopted her. And I was like, oh, is that for What We Do in the Shadows? And I'm so happy that someone had watched that show.
Mm-hmm. She's a treasure.
Welcome to the club, because it's such a good show.
Yeah, it really is. And then Ben was like, you started watching it without me. And I'm like, it's been out for like a very long time. You simply cannot be mad at me for watching this without you. Like, anyway.
The first season is rewatchable over and over again if you want to rewatch it with him. It's so good.
I think I will. I also rewatched Scandal, which is just like, it's a lot, you know? I love it, but it was a lot.
Yeah. Now it's just the theme songs in my head, and it will always be in my head now. Thanks.
That's been deleted for me.
Let me play it for you.
Do you want to sing it?
No, I don't want any more bad reviews.
Look, maybe your singing is what will get us more good reviews.
Apple will take our podcast down and sue us.
They'll be like, this is rated XXX because your voice is so smoking hot. I've never heard Amanda sing. I have no clue whether she sings well or not. But I also just need you to know that she's blushing right now, and it's amazing. Sometimes she is dragging me through our outline. I'm all tangents today. Welcome to our first recording back. That's what this is.
It's been like 100 years since we've recorded, okay?
It has. And Carol went to a place that was called Dylan's Book. Of course I forgot how to speak. Of course I did.
Bookshop.
Like, this isn't even an accent. It's just like words not coming out of my mouth correctly. It also might have something to do with electromagnetic. It also might have something to do with every time I start to talk, Moose starts to snore so much louder.
Our Google search absolutely was, what is general relativity in simple terms?
Or they're using a technique called remote. Why my Maryland Baltimore accent? Remote.
That's another one.
Gravity gonna do what gravity gonna do.